If you're looking to place bets on UFC 217, then make sure you check out our sponsor, ohmbet.com, ohmbet.com. They are running a $2,500 pick'em for UFC 217, and OhmBet has boosted the GSP odds to, check this out, 8 times the money. That's the only betting site in the world that's offering GSP at those kind of odds for his comeback fight against Michael Bisping this weekend. Now, if you go to ohmbet.com, that's ohmbet.com, and you enter in the promo code Fight Society, you get 200% welcome bonus for your first deposit. 200%. You're not going to find that, especially for a card as big as UFC 217. So check out ohmbet.com, check out the boosted odds for GSP's return at 8 times the money, and check out the $2,500 pick'em. Make sure you use our fight code, Fight Society, get 200% on your bonus, and win some money. UFC 217. There's no better card to put some money down than this weekend. Check it out, ohmbet.com, ohmbet.com.
All systems go. Check it out.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Loper.
Check it out.
Fight Society podcast. What's up, guys? I'm Loper. This is Damon Martin.
It is.
And you guys are with us for a while. We got a bunch of guests today. Michael Bisping, the Count, the Champ.
Double. We got the champ on today. We got Cody Garbrandt and Michael Bisping on today.
That is a double champ. It's a double champ day here on the podcast.
It is, along with Colby Covington, who stirred up quite a bit of controversy over the weekend. So we got a stacked trio of guests today.
I think without any further ado, man, let's talk to Colby.
Yeah, he had a big win over Damian Maia. And then he managed to piss off the entire country of Brazil, which is
everybody pretty much,
which is a rare feat, I guess. So, we'll talk to Colby, see what he has to say about his comments, as well as obviously what he wants next, which I think we all know is welterweight champion Tyron Woodley.
Damon, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. I appreciate taking time to chat with me as always.
Oh, man, I appreciate talking to you as always.
So, congratulations, man, on an amazing victory. You did exactly what you set out to do, and you did it in enemy territory, so it has to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm a man of my word. I told you what I was going to do before I did it, and I went out there and did. What I'm telling you next is Tyron Woodley is next, and if he doesn't give me what I want, I'm going to come take what I want. Either way, the belt's mine.
Yeah. Let me backtrack, man. Obviously, Maia, you were very confident. You as you said, you told me exactly what you were going to do in the fight. You went out there and did it. But was there anything that you were impressed with what Maia brought to the game that night?
No, not really. It was like what I said. I was going to beat him up. I was going to beat him every round. I was going to completely outclass him. I'm on a different level right now. So, I am the best in the world, and he came out hard. We had a good first opening minute, but, after that, he kind of, my pressure and my pace kept up on him, so he wasn't able to hang. My volume, you saw how many punches I landed on him, 88 significant strikes in 3 rounds. Tyron Woodley landed 57 in 5 rounds. So, I came out, and he couldn't take the punishment. He almost got finished at the end of that third.
Yeah. How was it? I mean, the end of that third round, you bloodied him up pretty bad. It looked like he was just about out of there. Were you hoping to get that stoppage, or at that point, because you obviously knew at that point you'd won the fight?
Yeah, I knew I won the fight, and it was domination, but, I also wanted to finish. I'm a finisher. I came to the UFC to finish, 5-round fights are going to suit me better. I'm going to completely break guys like Tyron Woodley, and he won't be able to last 5 rounds. So, I was real close to that finish. I heard the ref. He's like, Damien, respond. I'm going to stop it. Damien. He almost wasn't responding, but he knew there was close time, so he didn't want to call it. But, it was real close.
Yeah. Well, it was an amazing performance, and I know, as we talked about ahead of time, beating Damian Maia is one thing, considering the list of guys that have beaten him in the UFC is pretty short, but then to do it in Brazil was a tough thing. You told me beforehand, you said, I don't expect the judges to be on my side. Obviously, you knew the crowd wasn't going to be on your side, but to go out and do what you did, do you feel like you made an even bigger statement, that you didn't just beat Damian Maia, you did it in his backyard?
Yeah, I think that's a 10 times bigger statement, he hasn't lost there. I don't know if he's ever lost in Brazil, especially in his hometown. That's never happened like that. So, he had all the support. He had a full training camp, which he didn't have for Woodley because Woodley was being a diva. So he made Maia fight him on like 4 or 5 weeks' notice. He had a full camp, 12 weeks, feeling good to fight at home. So I feel like I did make a bigger statement. I completely outclassed him and put him on the embarrassment tour.
Now, I say this all the time, Colby, and I've had this conversation with you, I know, but I've said it to a lot of people. I say there's two parts to the fight game. Of course, the biggest part is winning fights, going out there and doing what you're going to do in the fights. But I said there's also another part of it, and that is getting people to talk about you when you're not fighting, getting people to, your name in the air, getting people to buzz about you, getting people to matchmake for you, those kind of things. And there is another element to that. And obviously, you've been having fun. You've been enjoying it. You've been playing. You've been saying what you want and saying it very loudly. When you had that microphone in front of your face with Daniel Cormier on Saturday night, it felt like you not only knew what you were going to say, but you were ready to get that attention. And boy, did that spotlight hit you pretty bright.
Yeah, I had a good time, man. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm having fun with it. I'm doing it my ways. I'm doing it my way. So I'm having a great time. This is so much fun.
Yeah. So what was your reaction? You said what you said in Brazil, about Brazil, and we saw the crazy just madhouse as you get rushed out of there by security. Kind of walk me through that. I don't know. I mean, you just win, arguably the biggest fight of your UFC career, biggest fight of your career, and then all this kind of unfolds. I mean, what was that like, just kind of going through all that in that arena?
Oh, man, that was a dream come true, man. That was so much fun. I mean, to get that much emotion out of 15,000 people, I mean, you couldn't hear in there. If you hear the broadcasters, you couldn't hear. It was so completely loud. I mean, I didn't care that they were booing and flipping me off. There were some people that wanted pictures and were being cool, but mainly the arena in general, I mean, it was awesome, man. The fact they had to have like 10 security guards walking me out, covering my head and stuff, making sure bottles didn't come because, there was bottles thrown, hot dogs, all kinds of stuff. So that was an amazing atmosphere, and I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully it's St. Louis against Tyrone Woodley in the first quarter of next year.
I love it. You issued your formal apology yesterday, which I thought was very nice. So it's kind of crazy. When this whole thing. Listen, it's not my place to place judgment on what anyone says or does. I mean, I understand. You hype up a fight. I'm a pro wrestling guy, which, by the way, I've seen you on Impact Wrestling. I got to mention that as well. I'm a pro wrestling guy. I remember the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov and guys like that coming out in WWE and bashing Americans and the American way of life, and it was just, I don't know, it was always fun, and got the crowd riled up and got people chanting USA, and now it's kind of the reverse. I mean, were you surprised that so many people were angry by what you said on Saturday, or did you say it knowing you were going to get that reaction?
I knew it was going to draw a pretty good reaction, obviously, but they were just, they had the tissues out, they had the tears flowing. They were sad that their best Brazilian welterweight in the history of Brazil, got destroyed, and they don't like people when they come and destroy their countrymen. So, they were sad that Damian Maia, the legend, the Hall of Famer, got upset and embarrassed. And then, I said a couple words and they got a little extra sensitive.
Why didn't you get to do the post-fight press conference? Everyone was asking me about that, and I was curious. Why didn't you get to do the presser?
To be honest, I don't really know. I'm not sure if it was for the safety and protection of me. I would assume that, but I don't know. I think, there's two sides of a lot of people will just start spreading rumors and say, oh, is it because the UFC pulled it? Did the Brazil, because for safety, I don't know what it was. I think it was more for safety, though. People wanted me dead. It's no mistake that I'm the most hated man in Brazil right now, so no big deal, A lot of people love me around the world, so it's okay to be hated in Brazil. No big deal. I'm probably not going back.
Yeah. Were you surprised, and I don't even know if you heard about this, you probably heard about it more from the interviews you've done today than you probably heard about it on Saturday night, but someone from the UFC, the guy who runs the UFC down in Brazil, had said, we were disappointed by the comments and we're going to look into it, blah, blah, blah. And I actually tweeted out on Saturday night, I said, I guess they're still reviewing what Chael Sonnen said 5 years ago, because I really didn't expect them to do much of anything about it. But I mean, I was surprised they even went that far, because listen, again, it's not my job to justify what you said, but guys have said far worse things in the past, and there was no punishment. Were you surprised that anyone even made a big deal, like went to that extreme? You know what I mean, to say we're going to review your comments.
Yeah, that's completely ridiculous. You know, it's a double standard. I mean, look at what Bisping was doing, ripping flags up. It wasn't even to that extent, you know. So what Chael's done, Connor's done worse stuff, homophobic stuff, this and that. It wasn't that bad. People are just love to overreact.
Yeah. Do you think it's, when it comes down to it, I mean, when you do it in a certain realm of, trying to be funny, Chael was always trying to be funny, but he obviously said some pretty inflammatory things about the country of Brazil when he was on that, that 3-year tour of, talking about Anderson Silva. He said some pretty inflammatory things, but he always said it kind of like a joking manner. I mean, it seemed like, people were just so quick to jump on your back because, you said it with such, anger, I don't know what the word is, but you said it with such enthusiasm, so I think people didn't think you were joking, and obviously I don't think you were joking, but you know what I mean? Like, it felt like everyone just kind of turned against you in that moment for some reason.
I mean, they were already turned against me, before I could even start talking, and I was going over to Daniel after I got my hand raised, they're all booing, oh, fuck you, saying all these remarks, oh, I fucked your mother, oh, your mother's hot, this and that, so, it just, those words came to them for a second because of the way they were acting. They were acting like filthy animals, complete dump over there. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, one of the things, and we talked about this, every interview we've done, we've been talking about Tyron Woodley, and I always, bring up the teammate aspect, and you told me numerous times you don't really consider him a teammate because he doesn't train at the main facility of American Top Team, but I'm sure you saw some of the comments from some of the Brazilian fighters who do train at American Top Team, people who probably are, training right next to you, next week when you go back to the gym. Will you sit and talk to any of those guys? What was your reaction when you see some of that? Some people said, and I think I saw Jorge Masvidal today said, you're his boy, and he understands it's part of the game. He didn't take, obviously he's not Brazilian, but you know what I mean. Like, he understood it's part of the game. You do what you do to promote yourself. And then some other people, seemingly absolutely flipped out. Like, how do you react to that? Because those are the people who are training next to you every day.
Yeah, when I go back, there'll be people that like me and people that don't like me. I'm really not too worried. I'm not in this to make friends. I'm not, if people want to be cool with me and they don't understand what I'm doing, then that's their fault. That's not mine. I'm all I set out to do is be the best fighter in the world. You got a problem with it and you're jealous of that, then, that's your fault. You stick to your own business and I'll stick to my own business, but we can be professionals about this.
Yeah. Do you feel like the people who, got you to this point in the beginning, the guys at American Top Team that you have trained with, I mean, do you feel like they're going to stick by your side no matter what?
137 million%. Those guys, they understand what I'm doing. Like, I'm taking over the game. This is my division now, and they see that. So, they've been with me since the beginning, and they completely understand what I'm doing, and they're on my side.
Yeah. So, we talked about this in the pre-fight, Colby, when I said that, for the longest time, Tyron Woodley hadn't really acknowledged you, didn't really want to say much. Then he finally did, and we talked about that. But then I'm sure you saw on Saturday night, he went on Twitter, and I understand. I mean, listen, whatever. You want to get a reaction. That's the point of going out there and beating a guy like Damian Maia and then saying what you say to call him out is to get a reaction. You want to get that attention because you want people to want to fight, right? I mean, that's the point. You want people to tell Dana White and the UFC, we want to see, Colby and Tyron Woodley. So what did you think of, what Tyron was saying on Twitter on Saturday night? And I did see your tweets, talking about your fight versus Damian Maia versus his fight with Damian Maia later on in the night. So what did you think of his reaction?
I thought his reaction was pretty funny. He's acting real fake, and he's trying to say some things to hype himself up, but deep down inside, he knows that I'm coming for him, and he knows that he can't stop me, so he's just trying to slow it down. He's already going to try and look for a way out, but, he's going to try and go to Hollywood and do these little B-list movies that go straight to DVD, so, we'll see if he wants to step up to the challenge, but, he knows that I beat Damian Maia, completely outclassed him a lot worse than he did, and he had 5 rounds. If I'm with 5 rounds, Tyron's heart, he can't match my will. He'll break in 3 rounds, just like that happened in the gym. He'll quit.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping he doesn't get too nervous and Dana makes him take the fight.
You were very confident, against Tyron Woodley, before you stepped into the cage with Damian Maia, but having that kind of performance against Damian Maia the way you did, and beating him the way you did, in the way that, you mentioned, the significant strikes you landed versus what Tyron landed in 5 rounds, things like that. I mean, did beating him the way you beat him give you even more confidence that you would beat Tyron Woodley?
No, I already had all the confidence in the world, damn it. I told you what I was going to do, man. I'm a man of my word. I told you what I was going to do to Damian Maia. I'm telling you what I'm going to do to Woodley and what I've done to Woodley. Like, this isn't just me telling you that. This is what I've done, and it's what I'm going to do. So I had plenty of confidence. I had a supreme confidence that I'm going to finish Damian Maia after I finish I'm going to finish Tyron Woodley after I finish Damian Maia. I just finished Damian Maia pretty much, and now I'm going to finish Tyron Woodley.
Yeah. You said before the fight, a win over Damian Maia should absolutely, get you the title shot. Back-to-back wins over Dong Hyun Kim and Damian Maia, 2 top 10 guys. Obviously, one of them a top 5 guy should earn you the title shot. But I always say, as I said earlier, there's more to this game than just fighting. It's getting people to want to see it, getting people to want to see the fight. Do you feel like what you have done, not only in your performances, but also in the way you've kind of, now built up the anticipation of this, that there's no question you should be the guy next in line, and that's, putting into the account that we have a fight coming up this weekend. Your boy, Jorge Masvidal, has a fight, obviously Robbie Lawler and Rafael Dos Anjos, but do you feel like with everything you've done, you really have separated yourself from the pack?
Yeah, I think I have separated myself from the pack. I'm the young guy. Those guys are kind of old over the hill. So, except for my boy Jorge, I'm not saying he's over the hill. He's a beast. But as far as I go, and Robbie Lawler or RDA, I'm the future, man. This is my division now. So, I think the UFC sees that, and I do think I passed him up. No one's beat Damian Maia like I just beat Damian Maia.
Yeah.
That was a war in there. Completely fucking outclassed him. He wanted out of that fight in the 3rd round. Trust me, he was completely battered and concussed. So, Tyron Woodley couldn't even do that in 5 rounds. So, I am the best in the division right now, and I want my belt. That's my belt.
Yeah, and you said, you'd like to go to St. Louis. You already stepped into enemy territory in Brazil, which I don't think anything will ever probably amount to what you dealt with in Brazil. But you said you are ready to step into St. Louis and face, Tyron Woodley on his home soil.
I went to Dong Hyun Kim's backyard, completely outclassed him, dropped him, battered him, went to Damian Maia in Brazil. Now it's Tyron Woodley against Colby Covington in St. Louis, UFC Welterweight Championship, first quarter of next year. Let's do it.
I love it. How soon would you like to get that booked? I mean, you said first quarter. Are we talking, would you like to have it sooner rather than later? Or are you just basically playing that because he's got this shoulder thing and, obviously he may not be able to come back quickly? Like, you're willing to wait. You want that fight, whether it's January or March, you're waiting.
Absolutely. I really want Tyron Woodley. He's been my sole focus for the last 3-4 years. I've been training for him for a long time. I told you I wasn't training for Damian Maia. I'm training for Tyron Woodley. So now that I've done what I said I was going to do with Damian Maia, I'm ready to do what I'm saying I'm going to do against Tyron Woodley. He stands no chance in that octagon. He will break.
Yeah, well, I love it. Colby, what a phenomenal performance on Saturday night, man. I know you don't need me telling you that, but it was a phenomenal performance. Congrats on the win, man. Enjoy a little bit of downtime. Hopefully you get a little vacation in here. And obviously, again, congrats on the win, man. Like I said, hopefully next time we're speaking is once that title fight is made, you and Tyron Woodley for the welterweight titles. I think at this point you deserve it, and I think you got a good shot at getting him, man.
Thank you, Damon, you filthy animal. Much respect.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Very interesting. So how much of that is pro wrestling gimmick and how much do you think is really who he is?
Don't break kayfabe, bro.
So I didn't know you had to inform me. So he's doing Impact Wrestling, which is TNA?
Yeah, with American Top Team. They're involved in the gimmick down there right now because they film out of Orlando. So
I can't believe so. Laborio is leaving American Top Team, citing because of this whole.
Well,
Kobe.
no, it wasn't because of Colby. He's been gone for a while now.
Well, what I'm saying. That's what the story has been. But I mean, the real story is what you're saying.
Here's the thing, and
he's been gone for a minute.
Here's the thing. Everyone's gonna, there's definitely differing sides of opinion on this whole Colby Covington thing. Here's what I'll say. I don't think what Colby said was all that bad. And on top of that, get some thicker skin, man. Like if you watched pro wrestling in the 90s or in the 80s, like, look at some of the crazy stuff that, like, the Iron Sheik has said about America, like, when he was doing gimmicks. And, I mean, this is pro wrestling 101.
But do you think people are going to feel silly, like, after it gets around to some of the bigger news sources that, you know, the story they're reporting is kind of a...
It's just like,
it's a fake story.
I think people get, I think at this stage where we're at, and listen, I think I've said on this podcast before, and I think you know me well enough to know this is true, Loper. I'm as liberal comes. I'm to the left of Bernie Sanders, if that tells you how liberal I am. But this weird, like, I don't know what it is, this movement of, like, just so being easily offended in this country is, like, driving me insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember the controversy when, was it when Carrie Fisher passed away or somebody passed away? And Steve Martin put a tweet out saying that she was, you know, first time I met her, I thought she was so beautiful. And then I got to know her and she was such a smart and intelligent woman. And he had to issue an apology because he called her beautiful before he mentioned that she was intelligent. I'm just like, we're really clutching at straws to, like, be offended by that. Like, I understand Brazilians being offended by what Colby said. I get it. That's the point of what he said, though. He was trying to be
offensive. Yeah,
he was trying to piss them off. He didn't say anything. You know, he didn't go as far as, like, I wouldn't say anything he said was racial or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't go that far on that kind of stuff. But, like, I think people are looking for a reason to be offended with stuff like that. And maybe you don't like Colby, and that's fine. You don't have to like Colby. I understand that. That's the point of being, you know, I did interviews with Josh Koscheck for years, and I'm pretty sure that guy had, like, 2 fans. You know what I mean? But he embraced that. You know what I mean? He embraced that, like, heel roll, that bad guy
I always
roll.
thought he was cool, you know? I always thought Josh was a cool fighter. I thought that him, you know, it's funny you say that, because he embraced that without going too over the top. The first time anybody went over the top was Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
That was the first time we saw that. But, you know, off the air, you were kind of saying, you know, like, most of the stuff Chael said about Brazil was way crazier.
Oh, my God.
And on a way bigger platform. And don't tell me that was then, this is now, because that was what, 3, 4, 5 at the most years ago?
And he went on that tirade for, like, 2 years straight.
Did he call the Nogueira brothers, like, mules? Like,
he
donkeys?
said that they tried to feed a bus a carrot because they thought it was a donkey or something like that.
Doesn't even make sense.
I mean,
like,
just
what?
like, yeah, like, you know, like, he said, and that was another thing when I said that, and then people on Twitter were like, well, Chael was being funny. Like, really? Like, that's okay that he was being funny, so it's okay? Like, I think people are looking for a reason to be offended at this point. It's like, stop. Like, you know, like, we got bigger issues to deal with. Like, Colby Covington, what he said, if you get offended by that, I understand if you're Brazilian and you're offended, like, you are a Brazilian and you don't like him knocking Brazil, I get it. You know, I get that. You know, if you're a American and someone knocks America, I understand it's our natural reaction to get offended if someone kind of comes after you for that. But, like, Conor McGregor was seen backstage at a UFC event, like, you know, saying a homophobic slur, and, like, everyone's saying, oh, it was in a private conversation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you know, nothing's private these days. I think we should all know that. But that is a far worse thing. Like, that's something we all agree upon is a homophobic slur.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we have to have some kind of middle ground. But, I mean, you know, when you start name calling and stuff like that, I think that's where you got to draw the line.
Well, it's
you
also,
know, like when you name call to, like, meaning like you slur someone's race, sexuality,
yes,
or, you know, general, you know, obviously if a person has a very, like a poor upbringing or something and you attack their economic background, I think, you know, that's not like where you're going to get, like, socially shot down, but I think completely classless, you know. So there's definitely there's levels to this shit, bro, right? That's what people say. There's definitely levels to this shit. And when you're just talking about, so the opposite of that is a cheap pop, right?
Yeah.
So I won this fight for all of the people here, right here in Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, and then the people go crazy. So the opposite of that is good to go out and go, all of you smell. And, you know, and of course they hate, they want to hate the American. They don't hate Americans. They hate the American fighter because in that situation, you're the bad guy for that night in Brazil. And, you know, for the most part, American fighters and fighters internationally are well received in Brazil and other places.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is one of those, I'm totally with you, fake outrage. I'm sick of this stuff too, because it's going to damage everything eventually. I mean, because what you're doing right now is you're fucking with speech and you're the entertainment part of mixed martial arts is what it is. Now, somebody might say, what if a football player goes out and starts to play the quote unquote heel role? I mean, that would be interesting, right? Like, what if a guy in the NFL did that?
Yeah.
You know.
The thing is that I think people, and everyone hates it when I bring this up, but the fact is that the UFC, mixed martial arts in general, has far more in common with professional wrestling than it does with any other sport out there. And I understand professional wrestling is not technically a sport. I get that.
Maybe like Olympic style wrestling or folk wrestling.
But I'm saying, like, in terms of like the production, the promotion, the way they build fighters, the way they hype up events.
Totally. Absolutely. The model is stolen.
That's Vince McMahon's playbook.
Yes.
Absolutely his playbook, has been since day one, and we should embrace it. You don't have to be a pro wrestling fan, but you can embrace the fact that it's so similar. So when guys go out there and say crazy things, because guess what? Colby Covington has won 6 fights in a row. He's gotten 2 wins over top 10 opponents. Dong Hyun Kim, he dominated, and then he just got a unanimous decision win over against Damian Maia in a fight that outside of a couple minutes into the first round, he dominated, and the guy that's 1 fight removed from a title shot beat him. And then he goes and says this crazy stuff, and I say this all the time. You have 15 minutes in the cage, or 25 minutes in the cage, but you have months.
Yeah.
Where people could talk about you outside of the fight.
And he has done that. He has delivered on that, and this is, I think, going to take him to the next level, oddly enough.
Yeah. Who did everyone want to talk to after that fight?
Him.
Colby.
Absolutely.
And so he's doing, what he's doing is clearly working. Because he did, I'm sure, I talked to him last night for the interview to play on the podcast today. I'm pretty sure I saw him do 8 or 9 interviews yesterday. Now, we've had Colby on this show numerous times over the past, few months. But now he's a guy everyone wants to talk to. What he's doing must be working because everyone wants to talk to Colby Covington. Everyone wants to cover Colby Covington. Everyone wants to get his thoughts on what happened. That's the point. You want to get people buzzing about you because, in pure skill versus pure skill, you got guys like Damian Maia who do it the right way, the martial arts way. And I respect the hell out of that. I do. But we are in an age where people want to have something to talk about other than just the fight. And Colby's giving us that. Conor gives us that. Ronda gave us that. That's why I've said for weeks now I think Georges St-Pierre is going to struggle with his popularity in 2017 because he doesn't give us that. George is not that guy. He's never been that guy. And 4 years later, it's not the same fan base watching the sport now that it was when he was around in 2013. So this is where we're at. Will it change 3 years down the road? Maybe. But where we're at right now, this is what people want. People want something to talk about other than just the fight. And Colby is giving that to us.
Let's talk about Lyoto Machida, man. Lyoto Machida, Saturday night, live from Brazil, loses in the first round and kind of loses in Lyoto Machida fashion. Meaning he was beat sort of the way that he beats guys, man. Just devastating in the first round. Yeah. Shockingly, too. Second
time he's been knocked out in 3 fights. Third time he's been finished in 3. He's lost 3 in a row. He got knocked down against Luke Rockhold and he got choked out, but he got outstruck in that fight too. He got knocked out by Yoel Romero, got knocked out by Derek Brunson, and that's after an 18-month layoff for his USADA suspension. So, yeah, man, I don't know what's going on with Machida. He's on the wrong side of 40. You have to start wondering, where there's a lot of people wondering, is he going to retire? Is he going to call it a career?
I got to think that was one of the last fights Lyoto Machida will have. Maybe he gets another fight, maybe. But I think that fight, if he would have won, that was the fight to kind of propel him to maybe the next fight being one of the last ones or that fight after that. I think regardless, he was close. He's had a tremendous career. Most people don't even remember him fighting BJ Penn, so it's
knocking
crazy.
Out Rich Franklin.
Yeah. So many memorable performances. Joe Rogan's line, the Machida era has begun. Karate's back, so yeah. So many exciting fights. I think he retires as a champion no matter what he wants to do. He's a tremendous competitor. Slightly clouded by some testing at the end, but I'll remember the Lyoto Machida that was the champion, the absolute champion, and defended well and had some great fights, man. A very exciting fighter to watch always.
He's just one of those guys that you don't. It's kind of like what we've seen recently with Rashad Evans. when you get to a point in your career where you're so used to this guy fighting nothing but the best, Machida's 3 losses are to 3 really good guys. I mean, Luke Rockhold, former champion, Yoel Romero, number 1 contender, Derek Brunson, who I legitimately believe is a top 5 contender now, and I think he has been. So there's no shame in losing to those guys. But it's like when they started matching up Rashad when he's fighting Dan Kelly. Now, I don't mean any offense whatsoever to Dan Kelly. What I mean is Dan Kelly isn't there yet. Dan Kelly is not a top 10 guy, and Dan Kelly would probably be the first person to tell you he's not a top 10 guy yet.
Yeah.
When you think of Lyoto Machida, you think of the champion. You think of the Machida era. You think of this guy who, battled, who put up epic fights and has fought everybody.
He's so elusive. You didn't even understand how he beat guys. It was like I thought that stuff didn't work in the octagon.
Yeah, so he was so good. So what you don't want to see is Machida losing and losing badly, which unfortunately has happened in his last few fights. And you just can't picture Machida in those kind of lower level,
promotion.
Not even promotion, but facing like the number 20 guy.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And I'm not saying there's any offense to the number 20 guy. I'm just saying, like, you think of Machida as a title contender. You know what I mean? And, like, do you want to see him fight? Maybe he wins a fight against the number 20 guy, but is that really what you want to remember about Machida?
Yeah, maybe he loses a fight against the number 20 guy.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of like, I never tell anyone to retire. I'm a big believer in, listen, let guys go out the way they want to, but,
Well, I think it's different than curiously wondering what they're going to do next. I don't think you're telling anybody to retire. I just think, it's, you got to wonder. You start to ask yourself, like, that performance, I mean, is this the one that you're going to go out on, or do you want to try to get a better one? Is it? Yeah. It's a lot to roll the dice too.
And I get the attraction of sticking around because you never know what happens because, one of our guests today, and we might as well segue into his interview, is Michael Bisping. And I'll be the first one to admit, and I've told Mike this, off the record, because, I consider Mike a friend, and I talked to Mike, outside of fighting, and I told him this. I apologize. I was like, when he lost to Luke Rockhold the first time, when he fought Luke the first time, in my head, and I said this probably on the podcast, I said I thought that was it for him because he had lost, 3 of those fights that were for title shots to get a title shot, and he hadn't quite got there, and he was, 36 at the time, 37, whatever it was. He's 38 now. I was like, man, I just don't know if it's going to happen. At this point, I just couldn't see it happening.
For sure, and he was gone for a while.
But then, boom, he gets a short notice fight against Rockhold, knocks him out in the first round. Amazing. I mean, what a storybook ending for that guy to go out there and do that. And then he gets to avenge the loss against Dan Henderson, the most embarrassing loss of his career, avenges that. Now he's fighting Georges St-Pierre, Madison Square Garden, best card of the year. So I get the attraction of thinking that it's the Yogi Berra. It's never really over till it's over. And so if you're Machida, 39-40, lost 3 in a row, you look at a guy like Bisping and say, I could do that. I can come back and do that. It's tough to walk away. So it's a weird balancing act with fighters at the end of their careers because you want to say, man, I don't want to see Machida, lose 5 in a row and maybe he starts losing to the number 20 guy. But in Machida's head, he might be thinking, I can do the Bisping. I lost a couple fights, but look at him now. He's the best guy in the world. He's on top of the world right now, so.
Without a doubt. And Michael Bisping on with us right now, Fight Society.
Fire away, I'm all yours.
So obviously, man, this has been a long time coming. Obviously, this is the fight you wanted. I know this is the fight the UFC wanted. This is the fight the fans wanted. I mean, was there any excitement when you finally got the call and knew it was happening, or was it just like, let's get to work and then let's defend this title?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, initially, just to give the quick backstory, the UFC put the idea of fighting George in my head. I never would have considered fighting George. Obviously, he was retired, and he was a welterweight. It was Dana that came to me initially with the idea. And of course, when they put it to me, I was excited. Obviously, George is a big star, and George is who he is. He's Georges St-Pierre, undefeated welterweight champion, retired as champion, coming back at 185. I'm like, oh shit, that's a big story. So I was excited for it. Then the fight fell through. Then they offered it again. We had a press conference, and I was pumped for it then. And then it fell through again. I was like, what the fuck, So when they offered it again, I'm going to say it wasn't really exciting. As I said, 3rd time I'd been there. So I was like, okay, all right, fair enough. But at least this time Dana announced a venue and a date and everything. So it was kind of more final, because even the last time when we did the press conference, there was no date or venue set. So I was like, okay. And then a day later we had the battle agreements. So I knew that this time it was 100% on. And you kind of summed it up there perfectly. It was just, okay, sweet, well, let's get to work and defend this
Yeah. This is, I mean, listen, let's be honest, Mike. We know this is a big money fight. This is going to earn you a lot of money at the box office. It's going to earn you a lot of pay-per-view revenue and everything. But I saw your post on Instagram the other day, and I thought it was really interesting when you talked about George had said something in the promo about, as long as I make a lot of money, that kind of thing. And I kind of get the sense that, the money is nice, obviously, but it sounds like more than anything, this is about a title defense. This is about getting another win on your record.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Listen, the actual line that George said, and I'm assuming this ties into the Mayweather-McGregor thing, because, no MMA is earning $100 million, but he said Michael Bisping is the type of fighter that would rather win $100 million and lose than earn nothing and win. Well, here's the thing. I'd rather win $100 million and win. Who says they're going to fucking lose? Yeah, of course, I want to be a part of the biggest fights possible, but make no mistake, I want to win, so that's why I put that on. Said, does this look like a face of a man that quits in his fight? There's been many times I could have quit, and I don't know how to quit. I'm very, very proud. I love to fight. I want to defend this belt. I mean, yeah, the money's one thing. I mean, listen, who knows? Maybe the money, it's going to sell a shit ton of pay-per-views. Maybe it won't. Who knows? I mean, that's not a given. That's not a guaranteed. Right now, my motivation is beating Georges St-Pierre. And I'm always like this. I guess. I don't know if it's an emotional flaw. I don't know if it's a good characteristic to have as a fighter. But when I look at GSP now, I just want to kill him. I look at his stupid fucking face with his stupid roll neck, turtleneck sweaters that he wears, and I just want to punch him in the face more than ever. He's hanging out with Freddie Roach and this other fucking striking coach that doesn't know his ass from his elbow. I just commented this morning that there has been, there never was, and there never will. George is the has been, the striking coach is the never was. He trains fucking soccer moms. Jorge Blanco is his name. And there never was, never will is Freddie Roach, because he knows fuck all about MMA. He probably couldn't even spell MMA. So, make no mistake. I want to win this fight. The money, whatever. That's inconsequential. That's there. That's in the bank. Beating George is what matters to me.
Yeah. When people look back at your resume, Mike, you fought everybody. I mean, I'm not saying that facetiously. You fought everybody, and so when you got the title, I always felt like you not only earned it, but you also kind of appreciated it more than a lot of people that maybe have become champion in the past in the UFC. But I mean, what does a win over Georges St-Pierre mean to you? I mean, this is at the end of the day a guy who is who could have been the longest reigning champion in UFC history had he not retired. I mean, he was 9-time defending when he fought Johnny Hendricks. We got to assume if he would have kept going, maybe he would have won 10 or 11 or 12. Obviously, one of the greatest of all time. He did it the right way. He did it clean. He didn't cheat. I mean, this feels like this is.
Well, that's open for debate, David. That is open for debate, and I'm curious as to why he delayed coming back so much. Maybe he found out he had to do 6 months of USADA testing, and I mean, who knows? He said it was an eye condition, but fucking hell, that seems like a serious eye condition. Anyway, but we'll leave that one there. What does it mean? What does it mean to beat Georges St-Pierre? Well, I mean, as you say, winning the belt, that was great. That was validation for a lifetime's work, pretty much. The work we put in as fighters, we could do anything. If you've got a half-decent brain on your shoulders, which I have, the amount of time and effort and energy that you put into being a fighter, you can turn that towards anything. I could go to college and learn to be, something pretty decent. I could go and be a lawyer, or I could go and be a doctor, or whatever, But I chose this, and I guess winning the belt, it was just kind of validation that, it just made all that sacrifice worth it, I guess, I mean, maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but I guess that is the answer, what you say, right? So, yeah, it made everything worth it. It was redemption to myself, to my family, and it was also a big fuck you to the rest of the division, and to a lot of journalists and the MMA media that wrote me off throughout the years. And being Georges St-Pierre will further that sentiment, because, George, big legend of the sport. I'm not underestimating him one bit. I'm expecting a very tough fight. Of course, for all the talk that you give, and I'm going to disparage him massively on Friday at a press conference in Vegas, but I respect George. I know he's got a hell of a skill set. He's a fantastic athlete, and he brings a lot to the table. Beating him where so many people couldn't, and if he did, he avenged them. Obviously, Matt Serra, Matt Hughes. Beating him is huge. It's huge, and it further cements my legacy as, in my opinion, one of the greatest MMA fighters that ever lived. You know, I've never took steroids in my life. I've never cheated. I've done it the hard way, through blood, sweat, and tears. As I said, a lot of people like to write me off and disparage me and say that my skill set isn't there. But all of a sudden, we have USADA testing and low down the champion. You know, so I think that speaks volumes, and beating Georges St-Pierre will further add to that.
Yeah, well, I think when I look at this fight, I mean, when you look at what Georges St-Pierre did, this to me is the same level of fight as when Anderson Silva was on his streak, and everyone talked about him going up and fighting John Jones. You remember that, when he was, right at that point, right before the Weidman fight, when everyone thought he was, unstoppable, and John Jones was on a run. They said, this is the biggest fight in UFC history. It never came together. That's what I think of this. GSP is one of the greatest of all time. You're one of the greatest of all time. How is this not one of the greatest fights of all time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, if you remember back, I don't know when it was, David, maybe a year ago, maybe less, we were sat in that restaurant in Vegas and we were discussing this, and, you were saying some very kind words about how, both of us are old school guys, and, there's a true storyline. I mean, George has been around forever. I've been around a long time as well. George is definitely, one of the best ever. If not the best, he retired as champion. We'll see what happens when he comes back. Yeah, this is a huge fight. Massive. It really is. And if you're a fan of MMA, buy this fight, enjoy this fight, watch this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, Mike, what do you expect out of GSP in this fight? Because when I look at, when you talk about styles make fights, I personally think you're a horrible matchup for Georges St-Pierre, because what he did as a welterweight, looking to get inside and out-wrestle guys, you obviously have shown tremendous takedown defense throughout your entire career. You've never been out-wrestled, really. I mean, Chael Sonnen tried, and he couldn't do it. And Chael is obviously a much bigger, physically stronger guy than GSP was. You look at, he says he's going to be more aggressive. He's going to go for the finish. I think that plays right into your style. I mean, stylistically, I think you are a pretty bad matchup for him. But what do you think? I mean, what do you expect out of him in this fight?
Yeah, well, I mean, Freddie Roach said something the other day. He said, George is the better athlete, and that's what this is pretty much going to come down to. Which I think, with the greatest respect for Freddie Roach, because he is, he's an esteemed trainer, that's an ignorant statement to make, and Freddie Roach, coming from the boxing world and being involved in combat sports as long as he has, knows that. He fucking knows damn well. It's not just about who's the better athlete. It's about who wants you more, who's got the fighting spirit, who's got the heart, and that ultimately, GSP hasn't got the heart that I have. I don't think anyone does. What do I expect from George? Well, he's a lot bigger right now. We did some press in New York, and I did notice he does look bigger. If you look at him in his face isn't as chiseled as what it used to be, so he's put on some extra weight. Now, he's put on the extra weight to make himself stronger. He has been focusing on a lot of jiu-jitsu. He's been, he's up there in New York training with John Danaher constantly on jiu-jitsu. I saw on Instagram he flew a couple of guys into Montreal for the weekend. I clicked on those guys' profile. They were jiu-jitsu guys. So he can talk all he wants, and he can have Freddie Roach up there teaching him how to fucking box. But he's going to look to take me down and control me on the ground or look for a submission, just like George always does. George doesn't like getting hit in the head. Now, nobody likes getting hit. Nobody likes to get hit, but he dislikes it. And after that last fight against Johnny Hendricks, that's why he took some time away. That's why he disappeared from the sport. And now he sees me as somebody that he can take down, control, and win on the ground. So I'm expecting him to, his wrestling to be top-notch. I'm expecting his striking to be good. He had a good karate background, and when he first came on the scene, there was, he had some impressive striking. We know he has a good job. He has good fundamentals. He has a good mindset. He has fantastic wrestling, legit BJJ black belt. You put all these things together, Damon, it's a hard fight. It's a very hard fight. Will he be able to hold me down? Well, I guess we'll find out. I'm working very hard. I'm on my way to the gym right now. We've got wrestling practice this morning. plenty of big wrestlers in there that trying to take me down. Got a couple of college ridiculous wrestlers, and if they can't hold me down or take me down, then I think George is fucked.
You know, one of the subjects I wanted to talk with you about, Mike, was the retirement question. You mentioned this on Ariel's show, and you've talked openly about this on your podcast. Which, by the way, I love your podcast. I listen to it every week. I don't listen. I honestly don't listen to any other MMA podcast besides my own. But yours is the one I listen to. I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But that being said, you know, you have talked. You know, you have a lot of other things going on. You're acting. You've got. I think you got a Netflix gig coming up, right? You got an acting gig with Netflix coming up soon.
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I mean, in principle, he's there. We've had meetings and this and that, and it's all done. But we haven't signed deals yet. You know what I mean? We haven't signed contracts. But apparently, it's all go. But until the contract is signed, mum's the word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you got all these things going on. So you have other things going on, but you've talked very openly about retirement. And I know this is a tough question to ask, 5 weeks out from the fight, but where is your head at right now, Mike? Because you've done it all. You've done a lot in this sport, and obviously you beat Georges St-Pierre. You're a two-time defending champion. I mean, at what point is enough enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do, Damon, I do, and it's precisely for those reasons that I'm thinking about this. Now, of course, Dana always said, as soon as anybody mentions retirement, they need to retire. Well, I'm not the one really mentioning retirement. There's other people around me. It's my managers, it's my agent, it's my family. They all say, Michael, retire. And they basically said, well, you said you've done it all, got a bit of money put away, you've become world champion, defended it a couple of times. What better way to go out as the world champion beating Georges St-Pierre in Madison Square Garden? Because I do have things going on outside the octagon. It scares me walking away from the octagon because that's all I've known. Being a professional fighter, that's all I've known for the last 15 years. So that's my security blanket. You know what I mean? I can always have another fight. I can always earn money doing that. So it's very, very scary stepping away. But everyone's saying, Mike, this is the perfect time. So it's not a case of that my heart's not in it anymore. It's not a case that I'm not enjoying the training or anything like that. It's a case of, listening to them and hearing them talk. They do have a point. You can't do this forever, and you do want to walk away on top. And I do want to parlay my fighting career into a career in the entertainment space. And retiring as world champion will definitely be beneficial. You don't want to be a guy that gets his ass kicked and people just remember that, and then you're trying to be a badass in Hollywood and all they see is the guy that got fucked up by whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? So if I can get the job done, it would be perfect. Will I do it? I honestly don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's close. It's close. I mean, I either want to do it here, home soil, my hometown, pretty much. That for me would be very, very special. But also, Madison Square Garden would be special.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, I mean, you're an analyst. You work on Fox. You call the broadcast. I mean, right now, I'll ask you the question. Name for me one mixed martial artist who is retired on top of the sport while champion. I'm pretty sure it's a short.
The only single one is Georges St-Pierre, and he's fucked up because he's come out of retirement, and I'm going to beat him. And he is the only one. So I would be, I think so. I think the only guy to retire as champion if I was to do that. The only reason one of the reasons I don't want to do it is that Robert Whittaker has the interim title. And I do feel a sense of duty to fight Robert. I do feel that I should fight Robert, and I feel that would take my legacy. But also, I'm going to do what's right for me. So that is certainly a big part of it. In a perfect world, I'll beat George and I'll beat Robert. But I know my family and agents want me to do otherwise. They're like, fuck Robert Whittaker, who cares, And Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero did 125,000 buys, So I wouldn't make a penny from that fight. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I always say journalists are the last people who should ever tell any fighter to retire. But when I think about it for you, Mike, like I said, man, you have a chance to go out on top of the world. You reach the pinnacle of the sport. You're champion. And the thing I think you have going for you that a lot of other guys don't is you have a lot of things going on outside the sport. You have your podcast, your acting, you have your broadcast work. I mean, you're not a guy who walks away and 10 months from now you're desperate for money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's part of the reason, because you got to know when the time is right, you know. So, I mean, and as you said, for all those things, I mean, it scares me because when I got into this sport, I was flat broke. I had nothing. Seriously, me and my wife, we fucking, I left school at 16. We were broke. We had nothing, and now life's good, and that life came from fighting. So walking away from it is very scary because, you know, I don't want to be one of these washed up ex-fighters that's working minimum wage again, you know. That's where I come from, and I'm sure I won't end up there. I know I won't, but still, I guess that's my background as a working class guy. That's always there. So it is a scary prospect, but I do have a lot going on outside the octagon, and I'm sure if I focused on it, I could have a lot more.
Yeah, well, as you said, George had the chance to walk away and be done with the sport as champion, walk away as one of the greatest of all time, and he said if he comes back and loses, that's going to be it for him, and now you're going to send him into retirement on a loss, Mike. How nice are you?
Oh, exactly. And you know what, to be honest, this is why, you know, I mean, I think the fact that he's even saying that, you know, I mean, for one, I mean, that's a terrible message to put out there. If he loses this fight, then he's going to retire. If he loses this fight, he's going to crawl off and lick his wounds and feel sorry for himself. If that was me, I'd say, if I lose, I'm going to fucking keep going until I get the title or whatever, because that's not the message you put out there. If at first you don't succeed, try again. That is the message you deliver to kids. That is how you should live your life. If I failed, I wouldn't be world champion right now. If I gave up and I failed, you know, as I say, I wouldn't be the champ. I had number one contender matchups 3 times. I lost them, you know, steroids, whatever. I lost them fair and square. You know, but I kept persevering, I kept trying, I kept believing, and here I am. So George says he's going to come back, and if he loses, he's going to throw his toys out of the pram and go insult. So, you know what? Come out of retirement, get your ass kicked, and fuck off back to Canada.
I love it, Mike. I won't tie you up, man. I know you're on your way to practice, man. I always appreciate taking the time. I'd love to talk to you more about acting after this fight's over, because, man, I've seen you in so many things. I was geeking out when I watched Twin Peaks this season. I was like, hey, I know that guy. That's a friend of mine. So,
yeah, you know, it's crazy with the Twin Peaks thing. That is going to be the biggest one where people have come up to me and said, oh, shit. I mean, obviously, Twin Peaks is a huge show, right? So a lot of people saw it, but they were like, fuck, I saw you, Twin Peaks. Yeah, that's cool. I was like, yeah, nice. I mean, it was only a tiny part, but I was a huge fan of the original, so just to have a little cameo was cool, you know?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So, yeah, after the fight, we'll talk more about the acting and everything else going on, but I appreciate the time, man. Obviously, safe training the rest of the way. Go out there, kick ass, defend that title, and like I said, man, what you do with your career is your business. I root for you either way, but like I said, man, go out and have a great fight on November 4th.
You're the man, David. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right,
give me a call anytime.
All right, talk to you soon.
If you're looking to place bets on UFC 217, then make sure you check out our sponsor, ohmbet.com, ohmbet.com. They are running a $2,500 pick'em for UFC 217, and OhmBet has boosted the GSP odds to, check this out, 8 times the money. That's the only betting site in the world that's offering GSP at those kind of odds for his comeback fight against Michael Bisping this weekend. Now, if you go to ohmbet.com, that's ohmbet.com, and you enter in the promo code Fight Society, you get 200% welcome bonus for your first deposit. 200%. You're not going to find that, especially for a card as big as UFC 217. So check out ohmbet.com, check out the boosted odds for GSP's return at 8 times the money, and check out the $2,500 pick'em. Make sure you use our fight code, Fight Society, get 200% on your bonus, and win some money. UFC 217. There's no better card to put some money down than this weekend. Check it out, ohmbet.com, ohmbet.com.
The champ was here. It's going to get crazy on Saturday. Hey, if you happen to be in the Columbus area, I'm hosting a fight party, a watch party at a place called Sirens on Cleveland Avenue. That's
naked women.
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio, and fights. Naked women and fights. That's old school UFC.
Loper will not be naked. I will tell you that ahead of time. He will not be nude.
My wife will not be naked either. I don't think anybody in my party will be naked. Maybe my buddy Hassie, but that's about it.
That's pretty much par for the course for Hassie.
Yeah, so we will be the next week after. We'll both be down in Virginia for Matt Brown's final fight against Diego Sanchez.
Retirement fight for the legend, the immortal.
Now, am I crazy? Did Diego say this was his last fight too, or no? I'm just making that up.
No, you're making that up.
Okay, I'm trying to make a better storyline.
Matt Brown has said he wants to retire Diego, though, so.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And, I'm not going to give away too much of what I know, but I know that this is going to be one for the fans. I know that's for damn sure.
Yeah, I said this to Matt, and I've said this to Bisping in the interview, and I've said this to a lot of guys who have talked about retirement. It's a weird thing with this sport where I can't remember who said it to me, but, you want to be done with the sport before the sport's done with you. And it's a rare thing in this sport. And I asked Georges St-Pierre this on the conference call last week when they did the media conference call. I said, George, you walked away, 9 title defenses, welterweight champion of the world. You walked away on top. So few guys do that. Do you feel like you had something to prove when you came back? And he said, no, I just wanted to fight, blah, blah, blah. But man, when you talk about retirement in mixed martial arts, Georges St-Pierre is the case study in why it's so hard to walk away. 4 years ago, 9-time defending champion, all the money in the world. Now, in my opinion, Georges St-Pierre, the resume he put together at 170, I consider him the greatest of all time.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't believe...
Because there's no, cloud of steroids hanging over his head like certain
that we
people.
know of. Yeah, but I think Georges St-Pierre, regardless of this fight, still goes out that way in a lot of people's minds. Because, this is a win-win for him. If he loses, he's the smaller guy.
In a way. But think about that, though. If he'd actually retired and called it a career and never come back, you can question, could he have had 10 title defenses, 12 title defenses, that kind of stuff? But when you think about how good welterweight is, good God, man. Welterweight, and I know everyone talks about lightweight being the division because it's the deepest division, and I would argue, yes, lightweight is the deepest division, but I think welterweight is the tougher division at the top. Like that top 10 in welterweight has always been a snake pit.
They're all really rough. 85 has cleared out more than it has in a lot of years, let's put it that way. But 70, 55, just murderer's row. And you'd like to see heavyweight that way.
Yeah, so that's the thing with George. It's like he walked away on top. He walked away as the champ. He walked away. He was one of the, literally you could point to maybe 3 guys who have walked away off a win.
I can't really think of anybody else that walked out on their own accord that didn't come back, several times.
So that tells you how tough it is. You know what I mean? Like Georges St-Pierre had no reason he had to come back.
Well, he was one of the first fighters, marquee fighters, to have that kind of money. Far eclipsing that made of like a Randy Couture or something like that, who at the time was probably the highest paid dude ever in mixed martial arts. So, George left the sport with real money. I believe George had investments. The issue is there some sort of neglect? He was talking about this alien thing, and I know Michael Bisping has mentioned this. It's interesting because, if down the road they find out that he had severe brain damage or something like that, and he was feeling, that this whole alien thing was due to that. Can you imagine how much of a black eye this would be on the UFC?
In theory, but I explained last week on the show, I don't think the alien thing is that far out there. A lot of people believe
You don't believe in aliens, bro?
I believe in aliens. I do. I have a hard time believing that we're the only species in the universe. I think it's egotistical to believe that we're the only species in the universe. So, do I believe he actually encountered aliens? Probably not, but that doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean he's crazy.
He for sure was not impressed, if so.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I got to go with Bisping this weekend. What about you?
Yeah, I've been picking Bisping.
It's tough to say. I would like to pick George. Everyone says if George can take him down, and George can take him down. I just wonder if George can keep him down. That'll be the question that is answered. I do believe George can absolutely take Michael Bisping down. No question in my mind.
The only guy who's ever really out wrestled Michael Bisping was Tim Kennedy when they fought at the Ultimate Fighter finale a couple years ago, and that was after Bisping was coming back from a year layoff with the eye injury. And, Bisping's been very honest and said that, I probably shouldn't have fought that fight. I wasn't completely ready, but I came back a little early, and he got out-wrestled. And that's the one time where a guy was able to take him down repeatedly in a fight. I mean, he stood up against Chael Sonnen. Chael couldn't take him down, and yes, Chael ultimately won a very close decision, but, Chael is a tremendous wrestler, and Chael takes down pretty much everybody, and he couldn't get Bisping down. Bisping resisted him the entire time. George is going to be a shorter guy. George is going to be the more compact guy. Is George going to have the conditioning? I remember the tail end of George's career when he fought Diaz and he fought Hendricks. He didn't look like the cardio machine he once was.
No, that's for sure.
And now he's carrying on an extra 15, 20 pounds of muscle or, thicker, obviously.
Do you know anyone who's been up close, like with him training?
A little bit.
I want to say without a shirt on, but it sounds so weird. But
a little bit, but I mean, if you see, they just put out the first Embedded when he's doing.
Oh yeah, that I did. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
so
they're
is he
doing
training
like
in that?
Yeah, they're doing the. They do like the fat cell, like the fat index, like the body.
Oh, that's
body
hilarious! They address it right away. So what is it?
Well, they didn't show it, but they show him taking the test. Like you see him doing the pinchers on the.
Oh, that's
the
hilarious!
Yeah,
they don't show it.
They don't show how much he is, but they show him too in the test. But he's still ripped. I mean, he's got like the little bit of the Chuck Liddell belly sticking out, but it's all ripped abs. It's a weird thing. Like he's got a thicker body.
I mean, that's generally people will point to steroids on something like that.
But
that's like a weird bodybuilder, like way
George has always had
different steroid.
George has always had a little
thing.
bit. George has always had a little bit of a weirder physique in the terms of like he doesn't get like that. That's why I think George has probably done it the right way in terms of no steroids, because he's not the guy who typically. I mean, yes, he's in shape. All fighters are in shape. I mean, that's just training and being in fighting, you're going to be in shape. But like he was always ripped, but he was never one of those guys you looked at like a Phil Baroni. And I'm not pointing the finger at Phil and saying he's a cheater. I'm saying like Phil had that physique where you're like
a pro
Christ.
wrestler.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like giant pecs. And,
right.
He looks bigger. He definitely looks bigger. But I just think that when you talk about takedown defense, you talk about striking, and you talk about volume over 5 rounds, I just think Bisping gets the job done on Saturday night. I think he defends, and it'll be interesting to see in that moment. I know Bisping has said, and in the interview about, possibly retiring, maybe one more in Manchester. He'd like to maybe go out in Manchester against Robert Whittaker. I know everyone's going to say Robert Whittaker would kill Bisping, but I don't think that's true. I think Bisping has a great chance to beat Robert Whittaker. Great fight, don't get me wrong. And Whittaker would be the favorite, but I'm saying like don't just count Bisping out of that fight.
I love him as the champion. He's always the underdog.
He is.
It's wild.
He is. But yeah, I like Bisping to get the job done, and I like the fight.
Let's say he doesn't. What about GSP? Like, what happens? He's the middleweight champion.
I think.
Does he relinquish right away?
I mean, he said that the UFC has it in his contract where he has to defend the title, but I don't buy that. Because let's be honest, GSP beats Bisping. What's a bigger fight, GSP against Whittaker or GSP against Woodley? Woodley's a bigger fight because that's him going back to his division. The title he ruled, he never lost. He goes there as middleweight champion, 2 titles, has a chance to become the Conor, the champ.
Everybody's going to hate this, but there is one fight that everybody always wanted to see. Georges St-Pierre against Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
And that's at 185 with GSP as the champion.
If Anderson can get past Kelvin Gastelum in a few weeks, I can see
that fight is back on, huh?
Yeah.
So where's that going to be?
China.
Holy shit.
Yeah, China. Yeah, it's like the day after. It's like 2 days after Thanksgiving.
That might be fucking with Kelvin making weight for that, I wonder.
Well, middleweight.
That's a travel.
It's middleweight, though.
All right. But, I mean, I'm just saying, that's a hell of a travel, man. That's a hell of a flight. That's a hell of a travel is what I said twice.
You say that, and when I think in my head, like, come on now, Anderson's only won, he won the one fight against Brunson, which is really close, and he beats Gastelum 2 in a row, but
at 85.
You're not far off. When you say that,
well, WME or I'm sorry, Endeavor. Now, don't you think that would be the sexiest marquee fight? Anyone? I see. I love your eyes. You're smiling.
No one wants to admit it, but you're absolutely right.
That's exactly what they would do, and they would do it before they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now's the time. I mean, what's coming up? Super Bowl weekend.
he beats Gastelum, we could see it.
Yeah. But
you might be right on the money. You might be right. Dude, there's going to be so many pissed off people. But you might be right on the money because Whitaker, and I love Robert Whitaker, he's not a draw.
Nobody even knows who he is. I mean, that guy's amazing. But like the problem is now, because they're going to look at their cards and they're going to say, man, this is, we got to do something here to make some money.
This is going back to and I'm not trying to rehash it, but this is going back to the Colby Covington thing. As great as Robert Whitaker has been, whatever he's on, like 8-fight win streak, knockouts, amazing performances, in my opinion, one of the best pound-for-pound guys in sport right now. His last fight against Yoel Romero drew like 125K on pay-per-view. 120K, something like a real low on pay-per-view. Real, like, that's just basically the hardcore fans buying that pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The expected buys.
You know, like, you can tout a guy. It's just, people watch who they want to watch. And people, as great as Robert Whitaker has been, people are not falling over themselves to pay to watch him. But people would fall over themselves to pay to watch GSP. You're absolutely right.
Because there's so many possibilities. Oh, Anderson Silva's over the hill. Oh, GSP's up a weight class. Oh, he's lucky he beat Michael Bisping. Whatever the outcome may be, there's going to be some kind of shady controversy. You know what I'm saying?
And GSP's already talked about it too. I didn't think about that because everyone's like, you wouldn't go to 185 to face Anderson Silva. Why are you going up now? And he's like, I was never offered Anderson. And then, Jay Dana comes out and says, we absolutely tried to put that fight together. Oh my God, you're right, Loper.
I think that is the fight that would happen. And, so we'll see what happens. Like you said, there's a long road to travel for that fight to happen. Or wait a second, what if he stays at 185 after he loses? And then you have two guys who both coming off a loss, two of the greatest of all time. Fight for no title.
It could happen.
Still, they're going to fight, guys.
Oh, my God.
Who knows? All right, so who's next?
Cody Garbrandt. Final guest of the day, the champ, Ohio's own Cody Garbrandt. Let me backtrack with you, Cody, a little bit, because I saw your appearance on Joe Rogan, which I love, by the way. You and Uriah were awesome on there. I'm curious, I don't want to rehash all the stories, from training necessarily with TJ, because we heard some of the stories and I was kind of blown away by some of the stuff you talked about, but kind of a very broad question, because TJ from training. You weren't friends, you were training partners. I wouldn't say teammates necessarily, but what's your biggest memory of TJ as a training partner, whether I'm talking about you training with him or him training with other guys? Like, what's your biggest memory of TJ from his time at Team Alpha Male?
Honestly, man, he was, a fierce competitor. He liked to compete. He didn't like to lose. He didn't like to give an inch. With that saying, too, he was willing to cheat at any cost to win a round, to win anything, man. Willing anything. Cheap shot. I mean, he's a cheap shot ambassador, and that's. I don't stand for that. I don't stand for any of that, especially with your teammates, man. And that's what it is, dude. Like, I lost respect for him after seeing who he was truly in the room, amongst his friends. Really, for me, I called him my family. I would never do that, but he has alternative motives. It's always what can he get out of it? What can he get out of it? Not the co-op that Team Alpha Male is about, not what it was, it was built on. But, he was just, alternative motives with whatever he wanted. If he would work with you, he would want to take your stuff or, and that's what it is. Had a silver spoon in his mouth his whole entire life, and he feels like he's entitled to everything. He's just a cocky bastard, and I can't wait to wipe that smirk off his face on November 4th.
Let me ask you this, Cody. With that being said, there was a lot made about, TJ's exit from the team and the way he exited, which I think was the problem everybody had. Wasn't that he left the team necessarily, it was the way he left the team. But now that you guys have kind of put together the team you have with Chris, I mean, I was at your training session before the Dominic Cruz fight, and I was blown away watching Chris Holdsworth and Danny Castillo and Justin Buchholz, the coaching staff that is there in place right now. But when you look back at the way things broke down, in a weird way, would you say it was kind of good riddance that you guys got rid of TJ when you did, that the team has kind of really rallied together and become a better team without him than they were with him?
Definitely, sometimes, and whatever, there's negativity there, and if there's cancer that's, surrounding anything in your life, you have to cut that out. You go and cut that out, and that's what we did. TJ left, we cut that out, and whoever else followed, we cut the cancer out, and we eliminated some of those, and it was great. Look at the year that we had after Dwayne left the team, used the team for a platform to go build his, Bang Muay Thai systems, And then TJ followed suit. They're easily manipulated, them two. They're like two peas in a pod. You know, Dwayne's hanging off TJ's nutsack just to, you know, promote his Bang Muay Thai system. You know, and TJ's using him just as a mitt holder and doesn't even want to pay him. You know, so they got their own things going on. But they're cut from the same cloth. They're both what can they get out of every situation? It's always money with them. And that's why, you know, they're, you know, been in the position that they've been in. You know, Dwayne selling peanut butter just to make it by because he burns every bridge. TJ, you know, is bouncing around from gym to gym like a prostitute on the corner, like I said in the press conference, trying to find training partners and coaches because his loyalty is not there. And, you know, and old training mates that even followed him out there, you know, say the same shit about him. He's not a good person at the end of the day. And, you know, but at the end of the day, the truth always comes out. And on November 4th, you'll see who the truth is, and that's myself.
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, TJ's, you know, the way that TJ has been, I mean, do you think it's an advantage for you? Because when he was at Team Alpha Male, I mean, that's what got him to the championship. Those guys got him to the championship, you know, when he beat Hayden Brow and all those kind of things. And obviously, I'm not taking away what the guy's done since then. He's had some tremendous performances, but now we saw, you know, you mentioned he was at Muscle Farm, and now he's out in L.A. training, and I guess he's still at Muscle Farm. I don't know. I'm not trying to get into, like, the politics where he's training at, but he keeps switching gyms and coaches and guys he's training with. I mean, do you feel like the consistency that you have, and it's one thing Conor brought up during that season, The Ultimate Fighter, that he's always had the same coaches and he always felt like that made him a better fighter, and you're the same way. I mean, outside of, you know, early in your career when you were at Strong Style, you know, you've been at Team Alpha Male for, you know, pretty much the entirety of your professional career now. Do you feel like that consistency helps you, whereas maybe it'll hurt him because he's got a lot of different voices in his head at this point?
Yeah, definitely. You know, he can say whatever he wants to say, that he's getting better, he's doing this, but I tell you what, when you're 5 rounds deep and you have, you know, and you're in a close fight and you're looking to these guys that's, you know, just barely, you know, new in your camp or you just started working with, you got to look forward to someone that's been in the trenches with you, to someone that's in the foxhole with you, you know, pushing you, hey, this is the 5th round, we need this round, you need to go out and do this and do that, and really, you know, have confidence in your corner that they're telling you everything to do to go out here and win this fight. So for me, I solely perform and live and have more success and structure and routine with that. So that's a formula that I've always had success with, and that's something that I've done great with. You know, last year was the first year that we've had all of our coaches together: Danny Castillo, Justin Buckles, Chris Holdsworth, my uncle Robert, and you saw that I went from unranked to world champion because of the consistency. And not only that, the passion and the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that we shed in practice on a daily, you know, routine. You know, with all those guys, they're at the top of their level. They've been to the UFC. They know what it takes to get there. They know how to train. They know, you know, from trial and error with a lot of those guys overtraining. They know when to taper off, when to have me peak, what to do, what to eat, all that stuff. So, you know, I'm fully confident in my corner, you know, to go in there and the training camp that we have to get me ready for and peaking for November 4th. So I think it's, you know, it's going to hurt him a little bit for sure, but TJ always comes in shape and comes ready to fight. You know, I'm looking forward for the best TJ. You know, now I want him as healthy as he can be. I want him at 100% because I want no excuses when I whoop his ass in that. You know, I want the best TJ to show that I'm the best bantamweight in the world on November 4th.
Yeah. The way you went out there and dismantled Dominic Cruz, a guy who had basically been unbeaten since Uriah beat him, you know, whatever it was, like 9 years ago, the way you went out there and dismantled him was a wake-up call to a lot of people about what you could do, because you didn't have to knock him out to win that fight. Now, you knocked him down a couple times, but you still went out there and beat him consistently over 5 rounds. I think that was a strong statement, not only that you're the best bantamweight in the world, but you can do it many different ways. You can knock him out in the first round, or you can go 5 rounds. But when you look at TJ's style and you look at what he brings in this fight, I mean, is he any more dangerous than a Dominic Cruz? You know what I mean? Because it seems like he's kind of adapted that style a little bit, where he's a lot of movement, a lot of in and out, a lot of footwork, things like that. He has finished some fights, but you know what I mean? Like, do you see him as any more dangerous than anybody else you've ever faced?
No, you know, I'm supremely confident with TJ. He actually gave me the most confidence I've ever had in my career to really push forward and give it all I had. When he was the world champion, I was 1-0, you know, on my way up, you know, and I was, you know, training with him. I was like, this guy's a world champion. Like, I know I'm going to be a world champion. So he gave me the supreme confidence to know that, you know, that if I just stick to the course that I'm at, keep training, being a good person, that, I'll make it happen. And here I am, 26 years old now, world champion, and had everybody with me that's, my uncles followed me around every camp I went to, and, my ultimate destination was out here, Team Alpha. I've been out here for 4 years now, and we've just been putting work in. So I don't see like TJ as any more of a threat. I know him. I train with him. I've beat him up in practice. I know that's practice, but with a guy like TJ, he doesn't want to lose an inch around submission, anything in there. So I know that it was, full-on fighting. And, I'm extremely confident going into November 4th. I know that I've gotten better. Not saying that TJ hasn't gotten better, but TJ went from knocking guys out in the 4th and 5th round to not knocking anybody on their ass in 2016. That guy's he hasn't dropped anyone last year. So you tell me, I'm just going off of stats and past fights. He doesn't move the way he used to move. I don't know if that's pre-USADA, post-USADA. I know in my mind 100%, but, I'm just going off facts and stats of fights. He hasn't dropped anyone in 2016. I went in there and ran through the whole division, everyone they put in front of me. I ran through them. I went out there and had Dominic Cruz swinging at air, lost in there, not knowing what was going on, dropping them more times than he's ever been dropped, taking them down. He was 0 for 7 in takedowns with me. He took TJ down 4 different times, so, you can say what it is. I'm hitting my stride, and I'm more confident, more exposed, more experienced than a lot of people give me credit for, and a lot of people now give me credit after the Cruz fight. But I knew all along when I have those bigger fights, or you want to have, say, the more skilled or dangerous fighter, as you want to call him, in front of me, I only rise to the occasion. So TJ, bring out the best in me, because it's going to be a level that you're not going to be able to rise to. You know what I mean? He's hit his peak. He's had his time to be the interim world champion. He walked around with a fake belt. You know what I mean? He was never a real world champion. He's never won a world champion. And then he wants to sit there, and the guy's delusional. Wants to sit there and say that Dominic Cruz, he won the fight against Dominic Cruz. No, he didn't. And yeah, maybe it was a close fight, but he didn't win the fight. He's just delusional. He feels, he's had the silver spoon in his mouth, so he feels entitled to everything in his life. And, this is a kid from the bottom, man, just crawled his way to the top. I'm going to stay on top of whatever I have to do, and it shows this, I'm going to go in there and show this guy what a real fighter is about. Not saying that he's not a real fighter, but, I think he's an athletic fighter, but I've been a fighter since birth. I was born to do this.
Everyone knows, of course, Cody, you love boxing, you love knocking guys out, but one of the things you did so well in the Dominic Cruz fight was you showed off other skills. You showed off your conditioning, you showed off your wrestling. I mean, all the things that, that Dominic said he would be better than you at, you did better than him. I know this is an obvious question, but when you look at TJ from top to bottom, from his striking to his movement, to his wrestling, to his conditioning, to his jiu-jitsu, do you feel like you're just better than him everywhere?
I'm better than him everywhere. And I guarantee it, he doesn't have a strong chin. He'll not be able to take a strike, a blow from me with a 4-ounce glove on. He wasn't able to do it with a 16-ounce glove. He won't be able to do it with a 4-ounce glove. So if TJ makes it all 5 rounds, goes the distance, that's a win for him.
But in your head, you don't feel like it'll go that far.
No. I cracked TJ with I honestly think where I hit, like I said, I hit Mizugaki. With the first hard punch, he'll go out. And the first hard punch I land on TJ, he'll go to sleep. And I'll rain down punches on him. And that's going to dictate on his movement. Cruz moved a lot and, said that he was a matrix in there. I found his chin. I'm accurate. I'm fast. I'm precise. And I hit hard. The speed is a different thing than you hit with the power. You're taken out of your game. So TJ can have a game plan. He's got set patterns. He's got set movements, set strikes. Him and Dwayne think they're the master and, the ninjas. But this is real shit out here. I'm taking a street fight mentality in there. And, I'm willing to die in there to come out with my title. And every time I step in the octagon, I'm willing to leave it all on the line for a better life, for everything, man. Just a legacy. And this is where I start my legacy. I beat Dominic Cruz. He was a legend. Now I continue my legacy, and with TJ, who was, a former interim champ. The backstory all behind that. Great fighter, but this is another opportunity that I get to go out there and showcase my skills on the highest level, the biggest platform. I have everything to gain from this fight, and from where I came from, adversity, 8 months of dealing with injuries and procedures and flying around the world just to get healthy, to get back to here. More than mentally and physically prepared to go in there and have a master class performance again. That's what I'm about. I'm about to go. I'm excited to be back. I thinking about when I got injured and stuff, I was like, why does this happen? But I got the hunger back. You know what I mean? It's when I'm hungry, I'm a scary dude.
Yeah. Do you feel like if you go out and fight your fight, Cody, and you put TJ away, is there going to be a certain satisfaction to close that chapter of your career? Because this is something that's kind of lingered because of the Team Alpha Male thing and because of the conversations TJ had with Uriah and all that different stuff. And then obviously you had to be stuck doing the Ultimate Fighter with him for, 2 months. Do you feel like this really will be kind of like closing a chapter of your career, just putting him behind you once and for all?
For me, yeah, I will once I knock him out. But, like I said, the kid was born with a silver spoon, so he feels like he's entitled. Look at his fights with the Cruz, he got taken down, and he said he couldn't hold Cruz down. He looked at John McCarthy and said that he was grease. He just looks for every little excuse when he gets, something happen. He just, like I said, man, he feels entitled to everything. So I still feel like he'll be crying and bitching and wanting a rematch if it's a close fight, but that's why I got to go out there and just knock him out. I know that I'm going to, and I'll end that chapter and move on, and my eyes are set on becoming, a name that's going to live on forever in the UFC and MMA, and I would like to go down and fight Demetrious Mighty Mouse after this fight, but I'm not looking past TJ. I'm so happy for Mighty Mouse. Him and his wife and family are just amazing. He's a great champion to, for kids to look up to. He's a history. He's the pound for pound best. I mean, no ill animosity towards that guy, but I can make 25. I can make, if he wants to go with 35, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a fight that I would like to fight that makes sense. Dominic Cruz I gave him his chance right after the fight, the rematch. He sat out, and then now wants to talk shit, because I got injured, but he was out for 4 years, trying to hold a belt. But, so it is what it is. But like I said, TJ's next, and then we'll go from there. But, all eyes on Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson after the great performance he just had. He has wiped out the 125-pound division. He's a pound-for-pound best. And I am the guy to have, I destroyed a guy that beat him, his last defeat. So, that's saying that.
Yeah. I don't want to look past TJ, but I want to ask you. I was going to ask you about Demetrious anyway, so I might as well just ask you now. Just out of curiosity, Cody, what means more with the Demetrious Johnson fight? Is it you going down to 25 and beating him at his own weight class? Is it maybe a 130-pound catch weight where both of you guys are giving up a little bit and it's just a super fight, just one of those, Anderson Silva GSP fight that we never got, where maybe they would have met at 175 or 180 or something like that? Or do you say, hey, I'm the bantamweight champion of the world, I'm a 2-time defending champion, come up to my division? Like, is there any part, like, which part of that would mean the most to you if you do fight DJ after this fight?
Well, there's a lot of, things for me to gain from going down to 25. I'll be a 2-time, 2-weight world champion, just like Conor McGregor. And I can simultaneously defend both belts. No pun intended to Conor. But, yeah, I mean, or we can do 130. The 130 was good. He wants to come up. He fought 35, just to make it a super fight, So no titles on the line, but we go and fight at 130 and we go back to our weight class, win or lose. But, yeah, I'm up for whatever. It's up to Dana White, Sean Shelby, to make that decision on moving forward. Wherever the biggest draw is, I know that it would be a huge fight with me and Demetrious. After the TJ fight, like I said, I'm solely focused on him. I know that I'm going to knock TJ out. He doesn't have a chin. I've tested his chin numerous times in the practice room when I was 1-0. I'm 11-0 world champion now, and I'm excited to go out there and end this chapter.
Yeah. To that point you mentioned, it would be a huge fight, and I agree. I think you and DJ would be one of the biggest fights the UFC could put together in 2018. Maybe you heard this, maybe you didn't, I don't know. But Dana White was recently asked, somebody said, when Conor's there, Ronda's gone, who do you think is the next superstar? Who do you think is the next guy or girl, who could kind of lead the UFC? And Dana said, very frankly, he said, we got this kid, Cody No Love, who's a champion, he's a badass, he's all these kind of things. And, it's always nice to hear those kind of compliments from the boss, but I've kind of felt that same way about you as well. But I mean, what do you think when you hear Dana White say that he feels like you could be the next guy? We're looking for the superstar, and I know a lot of that doesn't matter in the fight, and you've always been the same guy. But, let's be honest, it is nice to have that, the attention and the attraction of when you fight. So do you enjoy that? Do you kind of embrace that you could be the next, the next face of the UFC?
Yeah, it's nice. I love the UFC. I think they've been great to me. For my 2 years that I've been with them. I have nothing bad to say about them. I think I don't look into that, if they want me to be the face of it, I just got to keep doing my part, and them doing their parts, them getting me the sponsors, them getting me the exposure. But me, ultimately, it's what I do. It's how I perform, and all that shit will come into play. I go out there and do my job, do what I'm supposed to do, winning the fights and, masterclass performances, going out there and, defending my title and making those super fights, doing the media, doing what they asked me to do, like I have been a company man for them, and everything will fall into place. So just not looking into it, if they want me, they need some faces. I'm sure that there'll be, some other people that'll come up, but I'm excited to, carry the torch, carry that's something that I want to do. I feel ready for it. I remember speaking with Dana and Lorenzo a year ago after the Almeida fight, and kind of told me, to be a superstar, it's a lot of work, but it's you do have to do a lot, but it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. So, I've been pegged and ready to, for whatever's come my way. But man, I just truly love fighting and go out there and just be a good person at the end of the day, win all my fights and let all those things fall into place. But it's nice to have high praise from Dana White and the company that have your backing and want you to be the face of it. I feel like I've grown a lot this last year. Maturity, mentally, physically, emotionally, and everything happens for a reason. So there's a reason why that I'm having these opportunities blessed in my life, and I just got to take full advantage of them.
Yeah. Before I get you out here, Cody, I got to ask you this, and I know I'm selfishly saying this, but I'm just saying, you go out and beat TJ Dillashaw on November 4th. Your next fight's going to be a big one. I think the Demetrious Johnson fight makes a lot of sense. It's a massive fight, but huge for the UFC, huge for both of you guys. What about you and DJ headlining the next UFC card in Cleveland, Ohio? Because you didn't get on the last one. I know you kind of want on there, but what do you think? Is that possible?
That'd be great, TJ. That'd be great to have, DJ in Cleveland. Coming back to Ohio. I haven't fought in Ohio since my, before I was signed to the UFC. It was my last fight. That'd be awesome to come to the Quicken Loans Arena and put on a performance in my home state, and and a super fight with DJ. I would love it. So let's push for that after I smash TJ, and hopefully, we'll be ready to fight in the next few months after that.
Yeah, I love it. Cody, my brother, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, man. Obviously, safe training the rest of the way. Safe travels out to New York. I'm so excited you're back, man. I always appreciate you giving me the time. And, man, I cannot wait. I say this from the bottom of my heart, and I know I tell you this all the time, but this is the fight. This is my favorite fight of 2017. I am literally getting chills thinking about this fight. So I cannot wait to see you back in action. You and TJ is the best fight of this year, and I'm so happy we get to see it on November 4th.
November 4th, man, it's coming to fruition. We're here 3 weeks away. I'm going to go out there and put on a show, and hope TJ and his camp are, getting him prepared to do the same. And, it's going to be awesome fight for, an awesome venue, the Mecca of the world of fighting. We're going to go out there and fireworks, and I'll be with my hand raised, man. Thanks always for giving me the time, Damon. It's always, since the beginning, truly honored to speak with you and share my, road to recovery, road to Madison Square Garden, and then so on and so forth.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, like I said, man, safe training the rest of the way, and I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks out in New York.
All right, man. I'll see you out there. Bundle up.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Later.
Man, those waters are murky. I can't wait for that fight.
Oh, it's my favorite fight of the year.
I mean, it's
by far.
It's the best fight on the card, let's be honest. And there's a lot of fucking good fights outside the main event, even. You know, the main event's the attraction that's going to draw in all of the people that are not hardcore MMA fans. You know, those names are well known.
This fight between Cody and TJ is the purest form of what you would hope for as a promoter. Not only is it the two best guys of the weight class, which I think they've clearly defined themselves, no offense to Dominic Cruz. I think TJ and Cody have defined themselves as the top two guys in this weight class. But then the storyline is just, it sells itself. Former teammates,
absolutely.
Former training partners, fallout. I mean, the Ultimate Fighter season, everything, all the bad blood here is genuine. There's no WWE stuff going on here. They genuinely do not like each other. This is the perfect fight and my favorite fight of 2017. I love a lot of fights this year. Nothing is better than Garbrandt Dillashaw. Before we get out of here, Loper, let's go down the card real quick. Let's make some picks.
All right.
Because we got 5 fights in the main card.
Okay.
So let's go down through them. We got the first fight of the night is Johnny Hendricks taking on Paulo Borrachina, the Brazilian knockout artist, 10-0, middleweight.
I take Borrachina, all day long.
Yeah, I got Borrachina.
I think Johnny Hendricks' run is over, unfortunately.
I think he got knocked out by Tim Boetsch, and now he's facing a real power striker.
He got fucking wrecked by Tim Boetsch. That was like uncomfortable to watch, to be honest with you. If you notice that, wouldn't that be funny? Speaking of GSP, back at 85, there's so many other weird possibilities for him if he did lose. But yeah, I think that is not Johnny's fight. It's interesting to see how the mighty have fallen. It is funny that he's on the same card as GSP. That must make an interesting dynamic backstage. But I'll take Borrachina.
Same here. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson takes on Jorge Masvidal in a welterweight fight. Oh my God, I love this fight.
I think Jorge Masvidal from South Florida, man, takes it. I think he catches Wonderboy. I think it's going to be a tremendous fight. I think it goes deep, 4th, maybe 5th round. But I'm sorry, 3 rounds, right? Yeah, I'm still going to take Masvidal.
I'm going with Wonderboy. I think that he's going to wake up from the funk of facing Tyron Woodley. I think Woodley was a bad matchup for him because Woodley had wrestling, and Woodley was such a powerful striker that we just never saw Wonderboy get comfortable in either one of those fights. The way he looked against, Rory McDonald, the way he looked against Johnny Hendricks, the way he looked against Jake Ellenberger, he never quite got to that comfort level where he was able to really show off his striking. I think he'll get back to form this weekend. I got Wonderboy winning.
It's tough,
fight.
Man. I mean, for him to show off what his best is that means he's got to stand with Jorge Masvidal, and not many people have been successful at doing that.
Not very many people have been successful standing with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson either, though. So
fucking great fight.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the champ, takes on Rose Namajunas in the strawweight division. What do you got?
I have Joanna champion retaining the title. I think she looked a little shaky in the last fight in the later rounds, but she was able to grit down, bite the mouthpiece, and just go for it. And she's a fighter's fighter, man. But I mean, that's not taking anything away from Rose. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think Joanna champion is going to be retaining that title.
I think you're thinking 2 fights ago with Joanna, not the last one. Jessica Andrade, she dominated from start to finish. That was the one back in May. I mean, it was just lopsided, just unbelievable. And seeing what Jessica Andrade just did to Claudia Gadelha, you're like, my God, how good is Joanna that she went out there and just diced her up for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
I like Rose very much. I think Rose is super talented, but I just think this is a stylistic nightmare. This is Joanna, who is a technical, just masterclass on the feet. And she's got great takedown defense. I think this is going to be Joanna's kind of crowning achievement. She's going to tie Ronda Rousey's record for the most title defenses in women's history.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy that we're already there, right?
6 title defenses.
Kind of quiet. Well, that shows you without the hype machine behind it. It shows you how quiet that can be, huh?
Yeah. So Joanna, I think, wins this fight.
Now, who did it quicker?
I don't know. This is Joanna's 9th UFC fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
9th or 10th.
And what was Ronda's? Her first fight was in 2012?
Her first fight
13?
in the UFC was a title fight.
Right, but it was at 13.
2000.
Because 12 was here in Columbus Strike Force.
Yeah, 2013, I think, yeah.
Okay.
A year later, because that was, she fought Kat Zingano. She fought Liz Carmouche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Coming off the tails of that Miesha Tate fight that was on Showtime and all that, right?
Yeah, that was March of 2012 here in Columbus when she fought Miesha. And then she defended against Sarah Kaufman in August, I think it was, and then she came to the UFC in February, and that's when she fought Liz Carmouche.
My old buddy Mark Matheny as referee during that fight.
That's right. Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, the best fight of 2017. We could probably spend an entire podcast just breaking down the amazingness that this fight is going to bring to us. But who you got, Loper?
I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt. You know, I think TJ Dillashaw is an amazing fucking fighter. I think both these guys are just two of the absolute prime. It's the top two. I mean, even Dominic Cruz, I think, takes a backseat to both of these guys. I feel that this is going to be one of the best fights that we see this year, and I think it's not going to be easy, but I think Cody Garbrandt will knock him out.
Yeah, I'm going with Cody Garbrandt as well, and I'm going to agree with knockout. I'm going to say later in like the third or fourth round, but I think everything that TJ does well with his footwork and his movement and his striking, I think Cody does just as well, if not better. I think Cody is a better technical boxer.
Do you remember how off TJ was against Dominic Cruz?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, it wasn't the TJ Dillashaw we saw against Renan Barão and those.
And since then, he's looked better. You know, he had the fight.
He definitely does.
He had the fight against John Lineker that he dominated,
but not at high level.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what kind of threw me off. Is, you know, since he was with Dwayne, his game changed. I watched him fight live in Chicago, and then, you know, it was a little interesting to see that Dominic Cruz fight. And, you know, I'm hoping that he is back on par, and it's not because I'm rooting for him, but it's because I want that best possible scenario fight. You know, I don't want there to be any excuses left, because these two guys have talked so much shit. This fight has been so long in the making, and it's time, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think Cody gets it done with power and speed, and I think his footwork and his defense are just as good, if not better, than TJ's. Defensively, I think he's outstanding. His wrestling is on point. And I just see Cody going out there and eventually getting the knockout, you know, like I said, fourth, maybe even fifth round, getting the TKO and kind of putting a stamp on this rivalry. And then, of course, we already made our pick.
No, I changed my mind. GSP, third round, Kimura.
You're going GSP?
Kimura, third round.
All right. I'm going Michael Bisping by decision.
I just got a text.
Oh, yeah?
From TriStar.
Oh, okay.
Kimura, third round.
He's on the Farasa hobby hotline. He's got a bat phone set up in here, except it rings directly to Farasa hobby.
Why do you you don't look impressed? All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. Have an awesome week. Enjoy the fights. I have to have complete shoulder reconstruction, so I will be out, and Matt Brown will be in my place, hopefully.
2 weeks. Next week we'll be on.
Oh, I will be on next week.
Yeah, next week is before Matt's fight.
Oh, man. See, I'm kind of busted up, man. Maybe I could talk about the shoulder next week then. Oh, you guys get me for one more limp shoulder week.
Yes, and then the week after that, of course, will be me and Matt, and then you'll be back after that. So.
All right, we're taking souls next week, guys. Have a great week. Follow us on social media at Damon Martin. You can also check out his website, nerdcoremovement.com. You can check me out at Jeremy Loper, and check out my daily radio show. You guys can go to Loper and Randy with an I.com. See you next week. This is Fight Society.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Loper.
Check it out.